I discovered my husband was having an affair with my sister, so I divorced him and cut off my toxic family. Years later, everything changed. My husband, Ryan, 32, and I have been married for 6 years. We share a remarkably strong bond, navigating the typical ups and downs that come with any long-term relationship. Through it all, we've grown closer, cultivating a truly loving partnership. Everything was perfect until about 8 months ago when my sister, Star, 28, returned home. She'd been living in Florida since she was 18, but her long-term boyfriend abruptly ended things, leaving her in a dire situation and moving to a new city. The exact reasons behind their split remain a mystery, though Star claimed he had been cheating with men. Having only met him 3 times, twice when he accompanied her home for short Christmas visits, and once during a vacation when Ryan and I visited them for a day 3 years prior, I found her accusation far-fetched. He just didn't strike me as someone leading a double life, let alone one who would leave her with nothing. I attempted to reach out to him, but discovered I was blocked, so I eventually let it go. Star moved back in with our parents, Gina, 55, and Jimmy, 56. For the first month, she struggled to find employment. I suggested Ryan might be able to help. As a higher-up in his company, I figured he'd have some influence. He did, and she successfully secured a position within his department, a role that was actually in her professional field. To give some background, my sister and I have never been particularly close. She was always the golden child, at least in our mother's eyes, and our father, frankly, was spineless when it came to Mom. It wasn't overtly obvious, but rather a million subtle gestures. For instance, when we turned 16, we both received cars. I got an 8-year-old Dodge Neon, while she drove away in a 2-year-old Mitsubishi Eclipse. Her dance practices, elaborate outfits, and competitions amounted to thousands of dollars over the years, with some events being 6 or 7 hours away, and our parents never hesitated. Meanwhile, when I asked for a mere $50 for a local college volleyball or basketball camp, they'd begrudgingly give it to me, but you'd think I was asking them to fund my own sports arena. What truly infuriated me was at 17. I was 15 minutes past curfew after an outing with my boyfriend and had my car confiscated for an entire month. The very next year, Star came home 2 hours late, reeking of pot, and simply received a stern lecture. I wasn't exactly heartbroken when she left for college and chose to remain in Florida. Despite our distant past, she began spending more and more time at our house. Initially, I thought perhaps she was making an effort to forge a closer bond with me, which I found quite pleasant. However, I soon started noticing a growing familiarity between her and Ryan. They'd converse about seemingly anything for extended periods, developing their own inside jokes. If I tried to join in, they'd dismiss it as just a work thing. When I pressed Ryan about it, he simply stated they had a lot in common and were collaborating on several projects. The first significant red flag emerged after about a month of this, when I'd consistently arrive home from my 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. shift to find Star already at our house, despite Ryan's traditional 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. workday. When I questioned this regularity, the reply was always, "We had some work stuff to do." 2 months ago, something happened that made me doubt my own sanity. I always make the bed meticulously before leaving for work, ensuring the open side of the pillowcase faces the edge of the bed. Star had been over that day. When I returned home, she joined us for dinner before heading back to our parents' house. As Ryan and I got into bed, I noticed 2 of the pillows had their cases turned towards the middle. I asked my husband if he had been in bed earlier. He looked visibly startled, but said no, asking why I inquired. I simply said the bed wasn't as I'd left it that morning. He insisted I must be mistaken, as no one had been in the bed. I secretly checked his phone and laptop, finding nothing. But then it hit me. They worked together 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then hung out after work. Why would they even need to text? I felt like I was losing my mind. 2 weeks ago, my parents invited us for dinner. Everything seemed fine until I witnessed something unsettling. As Ryan walked past, Star lightly brushed his arm. He turned, and she whispered something, then they briefly touched foreheads. It was only for a second before Ryan visibly flinched and continued walking. Star then simply looked at me, smiled, and returned to what she was doing. I'm not an idiot. I knew this was a mountain of red flags. I just desperately didn't want to believe it. I had been deeply in love with my husband since I was 21 years old. I planned a weekend getaway to the city, intending to confront him there. I truly hoped my suspicions were wrong. You were all right, and my world utterly collapsed. Our weekend adventure began pleasantly with drinks, dancing, and intimacy on Friday night. The next day, with more plans ahead, I almost kept silent. I genuinely thought he couldn't be doing that with her, and this with me. I was terribly wrong. As we were about to start our Saturday, I looked at him and bluntly asked if he was having an affair with my sister. He immediately teared up and confirmed it. My heart shattered. I asked him why. He stammered an apology, claiming he never meant for it to happen, that they just clicked. And before he knew it, they were kissing, then more. When I asked if he had been sleeping with her in our bed before I came home from work, he simply hung his head in shame. At that point, I left. I had nothing but my purse and drove home without him. He took an Uber and arrived a few hours later with my other belongings. He tried to apologize, but I couldn't even acknowledge him through my tears. He packed a bag and went to a hotel. The next day, I told my parents. They already knew. They offered their condolences and informed me Star had left the previous night and might be gone for a few days. I had no doubt she had gone to stay with Ryan. All of this happened 3 months ago. Our divorce is nearly final. Ryan found an apartment to rent almost immediately, and Star moved in with him. I now only communicate with him regarding the divorce proceedings. Initially, he said I could just have the house and all the savings. I believe this was his guilt speaking. But after a few days, he insisted we'd have to split the house. I knew that was Star whispering in his ear. Fortunately, I had already transferred all the savings into a new account, so there was no battle there. Just like that, 9 years of my life were gone. He has no idea what he's gotten himself into. She's a narcissist and will eventually discard him. Star has been exceptionally cruel throughout this entire ordeal. A few days after my discovery, she tagged me in a Facebook post, a selfie of her and Ryan, with him kissing her cheek from behind. The caption read, "Feeling loved." It was sickening. I logged out of my account and deleted the app from my phone. About an hour later, she texted me, "Sorry sis, didn't mean to tag you. No hard feelings. I hope we can still be close. You'll meet your soulmate someday too." I blocked her on every platform I could think of. My parents haven't been any better. They pretended to be sympathetic at first. When I told them I was going no contact with Star and Ryan, my mother looked at me and said, "I'm sorry this happened. It shouldn't have happened this way, but your sister deserves to be happy too. You'll meet someone, and then we can put this all behind us." I became furious and brought up Star's Facebook tag and text. My mother simply responded, "Well, you shouldn't be on that stuff anyway." My father hasn't said a single word this entire time. He just sits there. I once asked him what he thought, and he simply said, "I agree with your mother," then walked out of the room. I am now going full no contact with them as well. The house will sell soon, and I'm moving to a different state. I won't be telling any of my family where or when. I haven't even told them my plan. I'm just done with all of them. I wish them nothing but the worst. Hello, everyone. I know it's been 4 years since my last update, but a major situation has unfolded. First, an update on me. I'm recently engaged. It took a significant amount of therapy to feel ready to date again. I did try dating immediately after settling here in Minnesota. Went on one, okay, first date, and then quickly discovered what an insufferable jerk he was. After that, I swore off men forever. That's when I committed to therapy, processing all the trauma from the betrayal by my husband and sister, as well as the abandonment by my parents. It was a challenging year, but then I met James, 37. Yes, he shares the same first name as my dad, haha, but James is truly wonderful. He's a chef. He and his fraternal twin brother, Jack, own a restaurant and bar that's doing exceptionally well. I'm incredibly excited to build a future with James. Enough about me. Now for the sheer audacity of my family. Roughly 9 months after I left, I had been completely no contact. I hadn't told them where I moved. Only a few close friends and a couple of cousins knew. One day, I returned to my apartment and found a wedding invitation in the mail. It was for Ryan and Star. The invitation featured a sickening picture of them hugging in a sunflower field. There was also a letter from my parents. It essentially read, "You need to forgive and put all this behind us. We know things didn't go the best, but we're family and families work through problems." They even claimed Star wanted me to be a bridesmaid, just like she was for me. What the actual heck? That letter reopened all sorts of old wounds, and my therapist got a lot more business because of it. Today I find it hilarious, but back then not so much. I didn't respond at all. The only thing I did was pinpoint which part of my extended family had given my ex-family my address, and I cut them off too. That brings us to the most recent drama. Last week, Ryan, of all people, showed up at my apartment. James and I don't live together yet, but that will change soon. Ryan looked good, too good, like he was trying to appear his best. When he showed up, I asked, "What do you want?" He said, "I just want to talk. I'm so sorry for what I did. Star and I are divorcing. I figured out she was unfaithful our whole marriage. Surprise, surprise. I don't expect you to take me back, but we should talk and get some closure for both our sakes." I did a double take. He had clearly lost his mind. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "No, I give you no closure. You made your own bed. Did you really think that golden harlot of yours, who's had more visitors than the Holiday Inn, was suddenly going to put up a no vacancy sign just because you put a ring on it? You're even dumber than I thought. I forgive nothing. I want nothing from you. I don't care. I'm better off now, and that will always be the case. You can go to hell." Then I turned and went back into my apartment, locking the door behind me. I immediately called my landlady the sweetest old lady in the world. I've grown quite close to her over these 4 years, and she knows about my previous marriage. Ryan was still loitering in the hallway a few minutes later when her 2 nephews, who helped maintain the apartment grounds, appeared. They informed Ryan he was not welcome here and was now on a banned list. If he returned, the police would be called for trespassing. I hoped that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. I now have a fairly easy 9 to 5 work schedule, which allows me to visit the restaurant almost any night James is managing. I don't get in the way. I just hang out and enjoy the few minutes he can spare. I've become good friends with much of the staff, many of whom are James and Jack's family, and it truly is the family environment I always wished I had. I was there the next night when Ryan walked in and simply sat at my table. It was a slow Tuesday, and James, noticing him, immediately came over to check on me. He recognized Ryan from photos I had shown him. Ryan extended his hand to James, who just looked at it, then asked me, "Want me to kick him out?" I said, "Not yet. I've got a question or two." Ryan perked up as if he were winning something. What an absolute tool. I asked him to tell me what had happened between him and Star. I'll admit it was pure, morbid curiosity. He told us she had been having at least 2 affairs with married men. Old habits die hard, I guess. This was 2 years into their marriage. It was a tough time for me, he said, and I actually rolled my eyes. I interrupted. "You're not that dumb, though. Did you protect yourself, or did she get half of all your stuff?" Ryan replied smugly, "I stuck it out almost another year with her so I could start stowing away savings and sold off some assets. In the end, she got a fraction of what she would have." I asked, "And what happened to her then?" Ryan replied, "She had to move back in with your parents again." Satisfied, I said, "Yes, thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. You can go now." James chimed in, "You heard her. Get out of my restaurant, Ryan." Ryan began, "But no, I want to." I cut him off. No forgiveness, no closure. I just wanted to know my loser sister was back living at home. Get out. James stood and pointed at the door. Ryan looked around, seeing glares from the bartender and 2 waitstaff members. He stood, tucked tail, and turned towards the door. James started, "And if you ever come back—" Ryan quickly interjected, Yeah, I know. Cups, trespassing." After he was gone, almost everyone around checked on me. It was both incredibly nice and a little embarrassing. My future in-laws, whom I adore, called me. They insisted I stay with James for the next couple of days, just to be safe. It was truly sweet. I've never had a family look after me like this. I haven't heard from Ryan again, and hopefully I never will. Hello, everybody. I honestly didn't think it would happen, but I have another update for you all. First, about me. I am now a 41-year-old mother of 2 boys, aged 6 and 2. James and I are doing incredibly well. I now work as a part-time office manager for our restaurants, and a semi-retired James's cousin bought into the business, allowing us to open a second location 3 years ago. It's been a lot more work, but with the 3 of them heavily involved in both locations, we've achieved great success, and it allows each of us a degree of personal time. It wasn't ideal, but I'm pretty sure I got pregnant while staying with James when his parents demanded I do so after my last posting. They now joke they always wanted to be grandparents, and it was all part of their master plan. Now for the latest update. After the last time Ryan tracked me down, I figured it was only a matter of time before my parents or sister showed up. It didn't happen right away. I eased up a bit, feeling I had a full support system, and rejoined social media. I remained no contact with much of my family, including extended relatives, but I also harbored no illusions that they wouldn't be able to find me if they truly tried. It wasn't until after our first child was born that I received my first message. It was from my mom. She offered a half-hearted apology, mentioned something about forgiveness, and inquired about her grandson. I was just going to block her, but the implication that my child was her grandchild I found deeply insulting. So I replied, "You do not have any grandchildren. I am not your daughter, and thus my children have no relation to you. If you want grandchildren, then you should encourage Star to get out there and do what she does best." At that point, I blocked her. She made new accounts and attempted to contact me for a while, but I always simply declined or deleted any requests or messages. That brings me to the recent drama. I began getting bombarded with requests, messages, and so on, urging me to contact them. I read some, and they were sob stories about missing out on the grandkids' lives and wanting to make amends. I genuinely didn't care. I had no intention of ever including them in my life again. Then, the more shocking thing occurred. Star started reaching out to me. She wasn't saying much, other than she very much wanted to speak with me. After this went on for about 3 weeks, I agreed to a Zoom meeting, just me, no kids. When it started, they kept asking to see the children. I was steadfast it wouldn't happen. They had 3 grandparents, and that was it. James's mom, dad, and grandma. I started getting the idea that this was about something else entirely. Star looked somewhat terrible, and my parents appeared old and tired. As we began to talk, they started apologizing for everything that had occurred, even Star. She said she was wrong to do what she did and that she wished she could have her sister back, a laughable thought. Mom then took over and launched into her usual garbage about being a family and looking out for each other. When she finished, I just looked at them and said, "Is that all you've got? I'm going to go." Then they yelled for me to wait, and the facade crumbled. The real reason was about to come out. Apparently, Star had been having health issues for the last couple of years. For reasons unknown, her kidneys were failing, and she needed a transplant. That's why they so persistently tried to get in touch with me. A family member is the most likely to be a viable match. I asked them directly, "This is why you called me? You want me to save her after what she did? My husband wasn't enough. Now she needs a body part for me too." My mother snapped, "Stop being like this. All of that was a long time ago." She began choking up and crying as she continued. "I get it, you hate us, but she is going to die if she doesn't get a transplant soon. Is that what you want? I know you think she wronged you in the worst way, but please, just this once, can we set that aside? I remained quiet, wanting to see if they would say more. Eventually, Dad actually started to talk. Look, we're sorry for all that happened, but we've got some pretty big problems. Between her medical bills and not being able to work, your mom and I are getting older and have our own issues. We have a lot of problems. We need you to come back to Missouri and see if you are a match, but we also could use some help, or we might lose the house. So you need my kidney and my money, I stated. Don't put it like that, he replied. Star chimed in, please just come home. I need my big sister. I don't want to die. Can you just come and see if you're a match? If you're not, we will never contact you again. I told them I needed to think about it, do some research, and would tell them tomorrow night. I ended the call and went to speak with my husband. He told me he supported me 100%, whichever way I went, then asked if we should all travel as a family or if just he should come. I said no to both. I was going and I was going on my own. I informed my former family that I would get lab results here in Minnesota, and if I was a match, I'd come there and we could discuss everything else. About a week later, I received the results, and it appeared Star and I were a perfect match. I agreed to return home to St. Charles. By the time I arrived, Star had begun to experience some complications and needed to be admitted to the hospital. This got everyone off my back about meeting for dinner, as I had no intention of doing anything social with these people. Especially since any time they seemed to have a free minute, my parents were inquiring if I had considered helping them catch up on their financial struggles. They managed to stabilize Star, and I went to meet with the doctors who would perform the transplant. They began going over everything with me, and I said I'd prefer to have this conversation with everyone present. We all went to Star's room. My parents were already there. The doctor began explaining the situation. Star likely had maybe 6 months left without a transplant. They reviewed the process with us all and made a huge deal about what a perfect match I was, emphasizing that the likelihood of finding a more viable donor was minuscule and that the sooner we scheduled the surgery, the better. I then walked over to Star and took her hand. I gazed into her big brown eyes and told her, "Did you hear that? I am a perfect match. Essentially, I'm the only person who can save you, and I'm not going to. You are the most vile, narcissistic piece of gutter trash I have ever known. I only came here so you would know that the one person who could keep you alive is the one person you have wronged the most, and now you're paying for that with your life. You're going to die. You should make peace with that." Star burst into tears, and my parents turned to accost me. The doctor and nurse stood there in total shock. I looked at my parents and said, "Don't even talk to me, and don't you dare ever ask me for anything ever again. The only money I would ever spend on you would be for your funeral, under the stipulation that you be cremated and the ashes released to me, at which point I will promptly deposit your remains in the dirtiest toilet I can find." Finished, I walked out of the room and never looked back. I'm back home now, my real home, surrounded by my real family, and couldn't be happier. Thanks for watching.